Hello, 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 and welcome, either back or for the first time. Now, be sure to hit that like button and subscribe as we talk about The Gentleman today. A film that came out in, at least what Google was showing me, very early 2020, so the theatrical run of this film was severely cut short due to world circumstances. But yes, I had recently just watched it with my brother on Netflix. I believe it is at least outside the US. I'm not sure the US specifically. But still, just my quick thoughts on that, it was a rather enjoyable, engaging, and all around entertaining film that does get a little bit meta. The basic premise is a character by the name of Fletcher, a freelance sleuth who is getting up there in years and wants a way out, decides instead of selling his story to je ne sais quoi, the reporter he was going to, Big Dave, who has out for the guy he's trying to blackmail, he's just going to, blackmail this guy, go to his second in command, and demand money out of him. In turn, telling us another story within that, the recent events of the head man, let me see if I can get his name here, played by Matthew McConaughey, goes by Mickey, I can't see his full surname there, Will. Point is, Mickey's starting to also get a little bit up there in age, not so much as Fletcher, but is thinking about just retirement and, just enjoying the, I want to say either upper middle class or lower top class. Either way, wants to get out. Got a relationship forming with someone to buy the thing for about $400 million, I believe. Or was it pound? No, it probably would have been pounds. Anywho, I'm getting off track there. He's trying to get out, but then a series of events takes a turn, and throughout all this, Fletcher is recounting what exactly happened, or at the very least, the knowledge he has. But he is something of an unreliable narrator, because for some reason or another, he's also decided to work this into a script for a movie, which adds a delightful, A, meta-narrative, and also, let's be honest here, B, trailer shots. There's just some things that don't happen in the film, that are only just in the fantasy of Fletcher as he's recounting tales. That, well, I shouldn't say film, but, isn't what actually happened. But let's be honest, if I had to look up a trailer for this, I'd probably see a few of those shots in the trailer. Anywho, beyond that, I don't want to spoil too much. We're going to get into a few things from my nitpicks, but I just want to say, overall, remarkably engaging, quirky film. I had a fantastic time with it. My brother absolutely loved it. It is a, again, storyteller recounting a tale of recent dramatic events while exaggerating to an extent, based around a crime drama and thriller. If, A or B doesn't sound particularly interesting to you, then it probably, isn't going to be the best. But, if one sounds interesting and the other doesn't, maybe give it a shot. One or the other might be able to make up the shortcomings for you, based on your interests. But yeah, again, very good film. Would personally recommend. Probably because people like doing this. It is enjoyable, but not iconic, in any sense of word. It's a good showing from everybody featured within the show, the movie, but it's not like something I'd definitely want to sit down and watch again. It'd probably be 4 out of 5 stars, 7 out of 10. Again, I would recommend it. I had a great time with it, but thinking of things I would definitely rate higher without or with connotations, asterisks there for why I'm rating them. Yeah, it's just very good, but not something I would describe as great or iconic for me. If I saw this as a kid, it wouldn't be particularly formative on my creative processes, Anywho, nitpicks. What's the time at? Yeah, let's just be fairly quick with this. Some major spoilers here if you want to just skip this. Well, it's not major. I'm still going to keep some things about it secret, but like it's going into nitpicky territory. So if you don't want like specific segments of this story ruined for you, now's the time to jump out and maybe come back and see what they find out later. Be sure to comment down below if you have to bail out. Helps the video. Anywho, first off, let's start with like Big Dave. Eventually they get around to like blackmailing himself, but like well, first off, just what the blackmail is. They just like put him under the influence and, you know, make a creative film past the R rating, if you get my meaning, involving Big Dave, if I am remembering correctly, the reporter character, just in case I'm getting it wrong. What's it, between Big Dave and je ne sais quoi, just a barnyard pig. Now, first off, I don't think this really holds up the way they thought it would previously. People are just a lot more shameless nowadays. Like, if this was done to me, like, you know, in the position Dave is in as a head of a media empire there with a, well, newspaper, but those are kind of dying out, but still big building, which I will come back to later. Like, if that had happened to me, you know, I would just go on the news mentioning I'm going to have reporting coming out about this person very soon. And, you know, just like say I was put under the influence, kidnapped from my place of work, which is a bodyguard, receptionist that would have been in sight to see all of this happen, and C, CCTV cameras for the building would recorded all of this happening. You know, plenty of evidence that I was kidnapped against my will from this location, put under influence and made to do weird things with a pig, and like, what are they going to do then? Release the footage? Prove me right? Like, and at that point, like, I'd just start spilling whatever dirt I would have on them. Even just the fact in of itself is pretty much just pretty blatantly a crime for, at very least, the coach, which at that point, like, if his boys, which go over his character a little bit, fighter type, bit of, I won't say boxer, but definitely like he just runs a gym, trains people how to fight, and wants to give the boys their, a better shot at life. And at a certain point, if they're gonna be under threat of going up the river, he's gonna sell out Raymond, which then points to Mickey, and it's Raymond's the second identity guy. We'll get into that later. But anywho, like, at that point, it's just a domino chain, even if there isn't a bunch of dirt I have anyhow, which comes into a whole thing with Fletcher, the, unreliable narrator throughout a good chunk of this film. But yeah, just completely falls apart without the presence of shame there. Like, if you just take the hit and just point out this was a crime done to you, essentially someone has, in fact, like, kidnapped you, drugged you, and just hard raped you against your will, take out that G, with the use of a pig. It's like, yeah, I just don't get it. And like, I have to imagine for like the average person, it's gonna take a lot of drugs in order to make that happen. Like, I'm pretty sure unless you just mute out his audio entirely, which then leads to the question, can you really be sure it's him and not like je ne sais quoi deep fakes that we have now, which also is another reason why this isn't particularly potent. It's like, if you can hear his voice, you're probably gonna be tell he's way out of it. Yeah, this whole blackmail thing requires like the presence of no shame. The presence of a ton of shame. But if he's just completely shameless, it's like, you're effed. You got nothing on him. Again, it's a crime that was done upon him under the influence that you also forcibly put him on, which also another crime. Like, You've put yourself in such a precarious position for such flimsy blackmail. It doesn't make a bunch of sense. But the real thing I really wanted to talk about this is apparently uninformed to us, the audience, throughout the entirety of this film. Apparently the coach is just a good graphic designer and programmer, because he's able to whip up, over the course of this creative project, a nice little animated play button, for video play on a laptop, of like just a pig's behind slowly being waggled at you. Nothing like, it's very cartoony, nothing explicit or anything like that, but it's the cherry on top the coach seemed to insist upon having for this Blackmail Sunday. Like, I swear this was written in by a writer who has no idea how complicated stuff like that can be. Even something simple as that does take a lot of time, creating the assets, programming it, figuring out how to get it in your already pre-installed media player on your laptop, or just making a new one from scratch that uses this? Or did they have to go out and find somewhere on some app or website that allows you to download it, one that specifically had a pause button that looked like a pig? That baffles me. Again, clearly just thrown out by a writer who thought, oh, this would be funny, with no understanding about how these things are made or how complicated this would be to implement over the course of, like, I want to say 16 hours, because it middle of the day when they take him, morning when he is awoken from his drug-filled stupor, drug-induced, it will. Just completely weird, and also highly irrelevant. There's a weird focus on him for his actual purpose in the film, given Fletcher's whole approach here. He really shouldn't have the presence he has here, but let's go on to that, because Fletcher, I will say, the unreliable narrator we are following throughout the majority of this film, eventually gets caught at the end. I think it would have been better for him to get away, because otherwise everything wraps up a little bit too neatly for Mickey and Ray over the course of this trying period, where it's like, not to go into super spoilers, but manipulations and gang wars and information just being leaked online about one of his farms. Oh yeah, I didn't really mention what he was. Like, he's basically like a pot lord, or marijuana lord. He's just found a good way to grow within the United Kingdoms, and that's the business he's trying to sell off. But like, throughout all the turmoil, things eventually work out well for them, and I feel like Fletcher just getting away and like flubbing up the story a good bit, changing the names so it doesn't bear too much resemblance to reality, and just, making a movie based off of this, would have been pretty fun meta-wise, but also would have shown like, yeah, like everything didn't perfectly come up for them. With him getting caught at the end, it feels like everything has been way too neatly wrapped up, which should have been a very messy situation. Also, on top of that, like, Blackmail falls apart because apparently Way, the second in command, or like at least right-hand man to Mickey, the one he goes to get stuff done. I don't know if like him would be he would be the second in command, or who would be his wife who runs her own business, but also is like fully aware of all this. Anyhow, that's completely irrelevant. He figures out where he's keeping, like, oh yeah, I'm blackmailing you, but if you kill me, this is gonna get sent out. He apparently figures that out because over the course of like the story being recounted to him, he slips a GPS tracker into his shoe, but like, okay, completely writing off no one noticing that in the shoe when, like, just the tiniest pebble will just cause you immense discomfort. Okay. Why would Fletcher go back to je ne sais quoi? where was I? The locations, where this is being stored, and we'll get into like how he's just bad and incompetent at blackmailing in a moment. But why would he go back to them? Why? It seems like just blackmail protocol 101. When you're not like part of a larger organization doing this and you're just a lone wolf, don't return to these safe places for these things storage unless you absolutely have to in order to get them, like the copy you have destroyed and need one to show off to someone. Because otherwise, GPS aside, like, just people following you, the constant CCTV in the United Kingdom, like, there's be so many ways to follow you if you went back to check up on them. It's such a done thing. You should just like get it and forget it unless things work out your way. On top of that, he has very specific fixed locations, which, to be honest, is really dumb. Like, yeah, of course, like, just, like, trying to backtrack where he goes, like, freaking places he would have access to. Like, lock a box in a, mail shop or something? I'm not exactly sure. And what appears to be an older person's bedroom, so his mother or something, or just a friend he has. Either way, those are really bad locations. Like, maybe if you have access to them and just want to be covering your bases, having something close by in case you do need copies of them, like, it would be so much better to just make a bunch of copies, send them out in the mail to a relatively remote location that would take like a few days for them to get there, like don't pay for express or anything, and then have the return address, for when no one comes to pick them up, if like the worst does happen. B2, and again, this is the reason why focusing on Dave is so weird. A bunch of media companies, the BBC, Channel 4 News, various newspapers, have it go out to all of them. So that way, you can't just get blackmail material on one person. If you start doing it to too many, oops, almost knocked something there. Like, it just becomes way too much hassle. You've exposed yourself way too much, and you're gonna get caught for it anyhow. It's just like super dumb, because Fletcher had originally agreed to give all this information to Big Dave for 150,000. He decides to blackmail for 20 million. But like, at that point, why would the only copy you send be to the one who agreed to pay you previously? Like, that makes no sense. Like, for your own security and to just make this like hard to like counter, again, 2 storage locations, real dumb. Mail it out so it's not in a fixed location and they can't exactly find it. You could select multiple destinations to mail these things out to and have return addresses. And like, it would be impossible for them to deal with it, and thus, take away your blackmail material, which they just do, and then, throw him into a trunk. He, double-crossed them anyhow, and, like, gave out information on how to find Mickey and Raymond to have them killed by some people. There's stuff in the story, we'll get to it later. And, like, he gets away during all the commotion, but, again, gets caught. Should have lived. Just, like, a loose end that just didn't get tied up. Would have been nice. Such a bad blackmailer. I don't know if I'm just good at planning this out. Maybe he's only good at sleuthing, really bad at, like, crime. I don't know. But, like, this is just such a big, like, nitpick or plot hole. Like, it's a nitpick bordering on a plot hole. Maybe the character was just dumb. Maybe this particular character, like Big Dave, had enough shame in him to not want this blackmail material on him to ever get out. But like, again, why is it just Big Dave? Why is it not being sent out to every press organization in order to ensure he doesn't like easily get countermeasured? And also, the way they find them, planting a GPS track on him is just super dumb. I feel like that does border on a plot hole. Because again, why go back to them unless you needed to show it to somebody rather quickly? You know, why check up on them at all, just in case someone would follow you some method? It's really dumb. Unless somehow he planted the tracker on him far beforehand and was just retrieving it then, but like, that makes no sense to me. Because, like, again, he would have had this all set up before he attempted to blackmail them, not just like revealing what he has and then like, you know, bouncing for a little bit. He would have had it set up at least like a day before he went to attempt to blackmail him. So like, it's just a real big nitpick on my part that kind of makes the film fall apart, and also this review go to like 20 minutes. Again, like, I had a really good time throughout the majority of the film. It's just like one minor nitpick that, you know, I could like write aside, but it also feeds into a second, much bigger nitpick that has its own little sub nitpicks that could eventually qualify as something of a plot hole, or maybe just some bad writing. They generally think like, okay, how would you effectively blacksmith someone? You want your material to like be in safe, secure locations, or just completely like out of reach of them. I don't know, maybe I've just watched a lot of things where blackmail is featured and it's like, oh well, yeah, this is how you do it effectively with this, with that, with this. And I just, through cultural osmosis, have a pretty good idea of how to blackmail someone that this writer didn't have. I don't know. All I know is I'm weirdly obsessing about it, and I put it into a YouTube video for you to watch. I hope you enjoyed, and if you did, be sure to like and subscribe. And also go check out my gaming channel. Like, reviews you see for the games will be from stuff I played on there, unless I decide to play them offline, but I'm like in that early streamer days where it's like, I want to play this offline, but wouldn't it make good stream material? And it's like, I'm struggling with that. Oh well, that's a whole separate thing, and I've ranted for long enough, let's be perfectly frank. So, time for us, do all that good stuff I just mentioned. Time to say ta-ta, wiedersehen, until we meet again. Bye-bye. And time to awkwardly stop recording. Bye-bye.